Hello and welcome to After the Bell Rings, a podcast about controversial issues that affect us as high schoolers. We're your hosts, Yadashan.
Shritan.
And Rishi.
Here we'll be uploading episodes every 2 weeks, and each episode will be about a different topic that is significant to us. Our hope is to create a rich community revolving around the changing nature of high schools and the problems that students have to deal with.
In today's episode, we'll be talking about security in schools. This one's more of an overlooked thing, at least until it hits the news, and is then brushed under the rug. Anyways, let's jump right into today's episode. So, my first question, how I want to start this discussion is, there's been a rise in school shootings over the years. It
Right.
hasn't been like it wasn't an overnight thing, but it's definitely been increasing over time. So with the rise in school shootings, do you think that security at schools is adequate?
I mean, to be honest, I really don't think they are, because like really at this point, even at our own school, like there were just random people that were coming into our schools, and they didn't know about it, and until they knew, they had to implement the whole wearing your own school ID thing
Yeah.
around your neck. So I mean, I don't think that the security level on high schools is that great. I think they can improve it, at least in terms of school shootings, by like maybe checking your backpacks every routinely, maybe once in a week or something like that, and something like that, just to know that that every student isn't carrying something potentially dangerous into the
Right.
campus.
And I was just going to add on to what you said earlier about how they can like prevent school shootings and stuff like that. I think it's a lot easier to obviously maintain security to prevent people from outside coming to the inside. I think it's a lot harder obviously when you have to manage like thousands and thousands of high school students, right?
Yeah.
To be able to like micromanage each one of them and see what are they doing here,
Mhm.
obviously that's a very difficult task, and it's up to schools to decide how they want to do that. And I think like it also varies based on the school, right? Because I mean, our school's pretty fortunate because we have a lot of fun. Like usually we have a lot of funding from our city gov and all that stuff. But a lot of schools that don't have the funding might struggle with the whole security thing.
Mm-hmm. So how would you go about security, like backpack checks? Rishi said once a week.
I'm saying once a week because, like, obviously, like, no school can do backpack checks for like 3,000 students like every single day.
Yeah, but what if
Yeah.
what if someone brings a weapon in on the day of the week that it isn't checked?
That's the thing. I'm suggesting that they don't let the students know that there's a backpack check. So
I mean, we could have like metal detectors like just there at every entrance, anyways, just so that like I mean, obviously, I'm sure they go off a lot, right? Because there's probably some random metal object in a student's backpack, anyways.
yeah, we have like iPads and
But
stuff too. Yeah.
yeah, I'm
Yeah, I
sure.
know, but you have to be like airport security
Yeah,
where you take everything out.
the thing is, it'd be such a hassle then, because like it already like think about how much time you spend in airport security. Like on average, how much time do you think you spend there?
Probably like
Quite
15 minutes just there.
Yeah, so school will be starting later because of that, or they'd have to like make it so people have to actually be more responsible. And I mean,
early.
let's be honest,
Yeah,
that's
and then there's a staffing issue there too. People to actually do the checks.
yeah, and I think like right now because of COVID, right? I mean, obviously people are looking for jobs and stuff. I'm sure there's a lot of unemployment too. So for the people who are being laid off, I'm sure they're looking for jobs, and it's obviously a way to is a way to provide them with that job too. So I don't think staffing's an issue. It's more of like how do we get through all of these people in time?
No, staffing is an issue. There are people looking for jobs. You still got to pay them.
No, but yeah, I mean, yeah, we have the. I'm pretty sure we have the funds for that.
Sometimes school budgets they run low, so I don't think
Yeah.
they can even
Okay, yeah,
afford,
yeah,
if they wanted to get more staff in the first place.
yeah, you're right. Yeah,
So really, the only problem is you just have to find a system that that can easily detect what they're carrying in their backpacks. Maybe
yeah,
like, I don't know. I'm just throwing out something here. It's probably like way too advanced right now, but maybe in the future,
right.
maybe they can bring up like scanners or something every time you walk into a door, or kind of like that, kind of like those.
I mean, they already exist. It's just that like implementing them into schools right now is not
Yeah, they exist. They
feasible.
exist right now, but it would take a lot of money to put them in schools. So
Right, right.
yeah, sometimes in some states and some cities, schools don't have that type of budget. A lot of schools like struggling right now, and as a
Hmm.
result, they have to like drop off like courses and stuff like that just to accommodate,
Yeah.
to just keep the school running. So
I don't know. I feel like the things that we recommended so far, like metal detectors, and maybe even like if you have more police officers around,
mm-hmm.
um, they're kind of. I feel like they're kind of treating the disease instead of. Oh, sorry, they're kind of treating the symptoms, right, instead of the actual like problem at hand.
Yeah.
Which is like I think I can pull up like basically this quote that I had was that I was thinking was basically that a safe and healthy community produces a safe and healthy environment, whereas vice versa, right? An unsafe and unhealthy community produces an unsafe and unhealthy environment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that goes in hand with the security situation here because if we're not treating the whole issue of how do we create a safe and healthy community for so that security isn't much of an issue because people are already present with a safe and healthy environment, which obviously mitigates the risk of like any of these extreme events from happening. I think that's more important than say implementing metal detectors, for example,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is certainly something we can do. But like, is it worth it? Whereas if you spend more time doing this, you might be able to completely or almost completely eliminate the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Unrealistic, wouldn't you say?
Um, yeah, obviously on a larger scale, it's pretty unrealistic. But for smaller schools, I think it's totally doable. Like for really small communities, I think it's doable. For really like large, anywhere upscaled from that is probably not feasible.
No.
I mean, even if we do it for small schools and not large schools, at least it will make some difference, right?
Yeah,
It's better than
and
nothing.
the school doesn't even have to do it either. It's more of a government thing, actually.
What,
Yeah.
the federal government?
Yeah, like the role of the city government in creating a safe and healthy environment. Like that's not a school. That's not something the school has to do. It's more of the government doing it, so that the school doesn't have to waste like a large part of their budget to use all these things like metal detectors and stuff.
Well,
If they could do it, don't you think they would have done it already?
I mean,
they spend most of their money on. At least I think that they spend most of their money on the military, and
The city
the
government
city
spends
government.
most of their money on the
no, the federal, the
military.
federal, the
Yo,
federal government.
Uh,
bro, no, I meant the city. No, the federal government
If the
is
city,
not going to
if the
pay.
city government implements those type of plans for like like school security, I'm pretty sure it won't be the same for other cities. So that's why I think
Wait, what
it'd
do
be
you mean?
better if the federal government does it, so they can expand like over like pretty much all the schools in America.
Mm.
Because if a city government does it, okay, sure, that city will probably be safe. But what about other cities where the city, income
Other
is
city
like,
governments just do it. Like,
okay, what would the federal government do? What you're proposing is the federal government steps in, but what would they do?
yeah,
I don't know,
that's
implement like policies or something. I don't know.
What,
I'm
gun policy? The
my
federal government?
no.
The
My
US government making gun policies?
that's crazy.
Ain't no
It's
way.
almost like the Second Amendment doesn't exist. That's amazing, man.
yeah, but there's a lot of debate about the Second Amendment too, right? Because like some people debate that it's an amendment not really made for self protection, while
Uh huh.
others debate that it is. So you think that really plays like a large significance in the school security and probably a possible reason why people bring guns to school or something like that?
Well, I mean, yeah, obviously, right? Because okay, so I think like somewhere in the range of like 67 to 68% of like gun related incidents in schools,
Mm-hmm.
the guns used in those incidents were basically like taken from someone's home or a friend or like a relative or something, and that really tells you like a lot of these people that are doing these incidents, aside from the adults, of course, don't actually own the guns. Um, they probably took it from someone else. Um,
Yeah, I think there's about like 80 million Americans or so
yeah.
that own guns. So
Hmm. Well, I
yeah.
mean, yeah, because the whole culture of like gun ownership is pretty rooted in America's like founding, anyways, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because of the whole Second Amendment. And there's nothing inherently wrong with the Second Amendment. It's more of the like how lax the like enforcement of gun possession laws are.
It can be interpreted in different ways. That's really the problem.
Yeah. And I have like just a quick line of text here. It says, "A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." Um, I just I just wanted to hear what you guys thought about what that actually means, because it says some very specific keywords like militia, and I was wondering what you guys thought about that.
Yeah, unless I'm forming a militia, I don't see the reason.
Yeah, and it's like the thing is, like, people now obviously interpret it as, oh, the common people should have the right to bear arms, obviously, right?
Yeah.
But then, like, I'm not sure what year it was, but there was this like a Supreme Court case where like the court ruled that it only gives the right to bear arms whenever there's a state's ability to form a militia,
Yeah.
right? And obviously that meaning's changed, but that court case record still exists, right? That was still an interpretation that was made. So I think that because of the way that people have like sort of changed their mindset now, where it's like, hey, I'm as a person should be able to protect myself using a gun, so I should be able to own it, is kind of seeped into the whole like legal structure.
It's a fair argument, I would say.
I think that the government definitely notices, the improper use of guns. Because
Hmm.
the main reason is that uh, you should be able to have the right to protect yourself or something like that, especially in like state matters and everything.
Right.
But a lot of civilians are starting to purchase like, especially from the legal and illegal markets, like other automatic weapons like shot-barreled shotguns, hand grenades, and other powerful firearms. So
Hold on. You say shot barrel? What?
But what?
short barrel shotguns. My bad.
Is that automatic? That's automatic. What?
What? No,
I
that's not automatic.
Oh,
No, wait.
No, I mean a shotgun is
whatever, bro.
something
A
that
gun's a
people
gun.
use for hunting.
Gun's a
No,
gun.
okay, wait, okay.
No, hold on. Did you say they were
If we're
automatic?
saying
That's
that
what I
all,
heard.
No,
But
no,
I
owning
haven't.
other automatics and then I was listing.
no,
No,
an
because
automatic is illegal.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what I'm saying. From legal and illegal markets, shotguns
Okay,
can be
but
legal to a certain extent, especially like rifles and everything.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
people buy rifles and
Yeah, yeah,
shotguns
yeah.
for
But
hunting.
Yeah.
I'm saying like the government has noticed that there's sometimes been an improper use in certain cases, so they're like inputting acts like the National Firearms Act of 1934 and the Gun Control Act of 1968. But
That
honestly,
was in 1934, 1968. Look how that turned
I mean
out.
that's fairly recent. That's just like in the last century.
Yeah,
But
but
I don't
Yeah.
think it's really making a difference either way.
I mean, I would say we're pretty different from then now. Wouldn't you agree? I mean,
yeah,
like,
I
but
mean,
I
me
don't
and the
know,
boys in the 1900s used to, work in the factories.
uh,
Not 95, more like 98, if you were lucky. And then now we're always on our like what computers, laptops, iPads, phones, that kind of stuff.
okay. What's your
Yeah,
point?
so we're pretty. I mean, our mindsets have obviously changed. That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Big difference. Like, it's only a century, but yeah, we've changed a lot. Yeah,
Yeah, but
change is there, but it's still a problem.
yeah.
well, yes, I mean everybody knows it's a problem, but there's no way to fix it. That's the issue here.
Well,
Like,
I mean, I think that's their
okay,
argument.
okay, how would you fix it then?
I don't know. I'm sure there's something to it.
Yeah, no, but that's the thing. That's what everyone says. I don't know. I'm sure there's something,
But see,
and then we
but see, to
round and
say
round
to
we
say
go.
to say that there's absolutely no way to fix it at all is a pretty declarative statement.
Yeah, okay. I'm
I
saying right
think
now that there is no realistic way to fix it. I mean, let's
I
say,
think
okay,
okay. You go ahead. I'll finish after you.
yeah, okay, let's say tomorrow. Okay, tomorrow the government says all guns are illegal. No one can own a firearm. But there'd be riots in the streets, dude. Like people would go crazy saying it's a violation of rights and stuff. And you know what? I'd say that's fair. Like even if I don't agree with most of the um most of the sentiment around firearms and stuff. if the government tomorrow said that this amendment is not like a thing anymore, what's stopping them from doing that for a different amendment? You know, they can't just like
Yeah,
erase what's
it'd
like
be a total
already been
violation
done.
of their powers.
Right, right, right.
Okay,
And
I mean,
so here's where I
I
disagree.
wouldn't say that would be their only solution that they would resort to.
okay, what's the other
No,
solution?
it's he's just presenting like a sort like it's it's sort of extreme kind of thing, right? Like to prove a point. Really, it's like
Yeah,
like there's no
that seems
what he's trying to say is there's no real way to go about it, and
There is no real way to go about it. And then if you look at like the gun industry makes money. Like you can't
yeah,
even deny that they're making so much money.
yeah.
Like
But
just making all kinds of weapons.
so here's where I disagree with you, right? On the whole, like there's no real way to go about it.
yeah.
We obviously don't have to resort to extremes, like you said, where we completely revoke the whole Second Amendment. But there's the whole idea that obviously more guns, will lead to more likelihood of more lives lost, just because of the whole like all the events of gun shootings and stuff like that. So if we just enforce stricter laws for gun possession, so that you would have to actually have there'd be a person there who would be licensed to check your ID and make sure that you were legally allowed to own or buy this gun. Then it would create less instance for school shootings and homicides. I think that's the way that we go about it, rather than doing something extreme.
Yeah,
And it's kind of like
cause what you are
it's kind
trying.
of like the whole. Hold on one second. It's kind of like the whole like treating the disease versus the symptom situation I talked about earlier. Like this is kind of the whole disease, whereas the symptom is issues like school shootings, right? If we treat the whole disease of, hey, let's kind of restrict gun ownership here, so that people who are actually licensed to own them can actually buy and own them, then there would be, I would argue, less instance of gun violence.
Yeah, cause like it's not
Hmm.
like the government can only resort to revoking the entire access to the gun market or to be able to use guns at all. Like that's like not the only solutions. Like you could, like I would suggest maybe providing like an ammunition mandate or like what Treathan said, more stricter laws. And I think it would help more than uh just like revoking it entirely. And I think
I'm,
I think that's a realistic way.
but Yadi does have a point though. Like there's the whole right situation.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
that's if like you revoke it entirely. I don't I
Even
could
if
be wrong.
even if they,
Could be wrong, but I think will there be riots though if you just input just maybe stricter laws or gun on guns or something? As long as you
I mean,
abide
I'm
like
pretty sure.
hunting seasons and everything like that. If you just do it, you know, if you input
I'm pretty
stricter
sure there were
laws.
pretty heated debates. I'm pretty sure there was like a lot of heated debates over it, like in general, just for like stricter laws. So I think Garson's actually right on this one.
No,
Like,
that's just politics. I mean, in California, there's a
yeah,
law where you have to, if you buy a firearm, you need to buy insurance to go along with it. Basically, it
mm,
makes buying firearms more expensive, so less people buy them.
that's smart.
But
Yep,
that's
that's the way to go
because
about it.
the majority of California's population is like liberals. Like you know, that's not happening in Texas or any other kind of
I
like
think, yeah,
red
Texas is
state.
majority,
It's,
yeah, Republican,
it's
right?
not gonna happen in those kind of states.
Yeah, I think majority of those states, like our state, will probably side with the whole like less strict gun laws.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Rishi was saying something like an ammunition mandate, like that's less money for whoever manufactures ammunition, so I doubt that's happening.
Wait, Rishi,
Um,
what do you mean by animation mandate?
like you can buy a limited amount of bullets.
Ah, okay. Um,
You could buy a limited amount of bullets, but you could still raise the cost.
The cost did go up. The cost of bullets has gone up.
Yeah, exactly. So what I'm saying is,
buy a limited amount of bullets.
you're,
I mean, that's not going to change anything, is it? People are still going to die from that. Like, you feel
I'm
me? Like,
saying like less people can die.
no, because you can easily abuse the system. Like, you can easily abuse that. Like, you just wait until the next limit, whatever, and then just buy more. You know, and just keep stocking up until you have enough. Like,
How do you know how much ammo someone has too?
yeah,
Like there's
like it's not all those people that are on TikTok that claim that the government puts like microchips in the vaccines and stuff. It's not like that, dude. They're not gonna put microchips in like bullets. Like
Yeah,
how are you gonna
that's
track it?
just way no. That's just
Yeah.
even
There's
after
no way they
COVID.
can track anything like that.
Yeah.
And even then, like
Yeah.
people can just wait until the next limit happens and then just buy more bullets and then wait until they're ready to go, do something crazy. But
Yeah. And then there's like the whole issue of, I mean, this is kind of going a little bit off tangent, but I just
Mhm.
think it's weird how like, okay, like there's the argument I want to defend myself, okay. If you purchase a
Sure.
pistol, okay. There's the argument of I want to do recreational hunting, okay, rifles and shotguns, okay.
Mhm.
And then there's like military grade assault rifle, like what's the argument for that?
Yeah, but like, are you gonna go fight in, like where are you fighting,
Yeah.
bro? Yeah,
But that's a different topic.
yeah. And I think it's kind of funny, like a lot of people resort to guns instead of like the whole, there's a lot of like martial arts out there. Obviously, I just think it's funny that people use resort to guns more than martial arts.
Yeah, how are you gonna punch a bullet? Next time
Yeah.
you can punch a bullet, let me know.
Bruh.
trust me, it takes a lot of skill, but it's possible. Have you seen those Matrix movies?
Only the guy in the Matrix can do it, bro. No one else can do it.
Yeah, I need to call him up and ask him how he does it, bro. It's
Yeah.
Bro,
crazy.
even Neo, even he uses guns, bro.
Yeah,
Even who? Even who?
it's crazy. Neo.
The main character of the Matrix, Neo, he uses guns
Oh
too.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were doomed. Martial arts is useless. Dojo's in shambles.
Which was in shambles. Oh,
Okay. I think we talked a lot about gun violence laws, right? So I'd like to move on to more about like internal security because, like,
Yeah.
the thing
okay, wait,
is,
okay, yeah. But before we do that, let's come to a
oh, okay, yeah,
consensus.
consensus. Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I think here's what I think. As a group, I think what we've decided is that it's possible to treat the disease rather than the symptoms. Obviously, with the whole restricting gun possession to select individuals that actually have the proper licensure to own them, right? So that there's less gun violence, but also implementing those smaller things like metal detectors and more police officers in the area. The only issue is that it's very hard to do it across a wide variety of states, depending on the people's opinion in that state, right? We talked about how Texas is a majority Republican state, and so they would likely oppose such, principles. Whereas a more blue state like California, like what you said earlier, would probably agree with the principles. So,
Yeah, and then another thing, before we move on, there's like one more thing that I'd like to bring up for the whole school shooting thing. My question is, do you think that lockdown drills are effective and the entire like lockdown procedure in the event of a school shooting? Do you think those are effective?
um, hmm.
I think that they would be effective if the information on how the lockdown drill procedures weren't released to the public. I mean, because then anyone can just find a way out of it, right?
I mean, we never actually been in like a real lockdown situation, right? We've only been in the
Yeah,
practice lockdown drills, so
I'm only
I
theorizing.
don't know how the whole door locking situation goes with, especially if someone has a gun or something.
Especially if the student is a student at that school.
Yeah, because
They
they
already
can be in
know
a
the entire
room.
procedure.
Yeah, and on top of that, they don't even have to be in the hallways either. They can literally just be in a room and then go out from there.
Okay, well the lockdown's not gonna happen preemptively.
No, I'm
Like
saying like no, like if there is a school shooting that happens and then the lockdown happens, right?
yeah.
Then from there they're already in the school, right? So they can just literally walk down the
Yeah.
hall.
And then like yeah,
Yeah,
everyone is a
y-
sitting duck at
yeah.
that point. And
I mean, and like
yeah.
our school's pretty lucky to have like all the plans and stuff. Like we have like what we have laminated sheets with like here's the fire exit, here's where all the stuff is in the building, like where the emergency exits are, right? Um, but I think like the problem with like obviously all schools have the plans because it's required by state law, but the problem with the where a lot of schools go wrong is that they don't properly train the staff like half the time to actually use the plans, right? And that's like really funny story about a teacher. Basically, we were in a lockdown drill. Like it was a practice lockdown drill, and then it was like we were all like the lights were off. We were all huddled into like a corner of the room, and then usually what the teacher should do is wait for the police officer to unlock the door themselves, because if the person who's actually trying to do some harm tries to unlock the door, then the teacher knows that like if they're trying to rumble open the door and the door's locked, like then that's a bad sign, right? But if it's the police officer, he should just be able to unlock the door with his key. But what the teacher actually did was, because he was untrained and he had no idea what he was doing, um, which no, yeah, it's not a problem with him. It's more of the training that he was given. Is that he just opened the door when the police officer was like imitating like a bad person when he was opening the door, and it was kind of funny because he wasn't supposed to do that, and we all had a good laugh about it. But it kind of revealed the whole issue of the lack of training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
then
mean, but that was with
So
a particularly new teacher. I think they understand it
yeah,
more
yeah, it
over
was,
time.
and obviously yeah, but I feel like that should be something that should start like when you get hired. I think, right? Like,
Yeah.
why wait until an actual situation when you can just do it when you get hired, so that the teacher's prepared right then and there.
yeah, yeah,
I
Yeah.
think there's
I
kind of an
agree.
oversight on the staff part, but yeah. And then
Yeah.
and then we also talked about how we haven't talked about this yet, but about internal security, right? Because obviously
Mhm.
we can talk about how we can protect our students from the outside, but we haven't talked about the violence that goes on the inside of schools, right? So I think like at our school, it was kind of funny because um, I can't say this reasonably. It's kind of an over exaggeration, but every Friday at our school, there's basically a fight, and that's kind of dumb.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it's
I
not
remember
every
last
Friday,
Friday.
but
Yeah,
there's a fair share.
yeah. Like I've like I think like this year, over the course of a month, I've heard about 3 fights happening. Um, or two or three. I don't remember the exact amount. And they don't seem like they're stopping either, which is, that tells you something about how staff are managing the peace inside, right? So,
I don't think that's a staff issue. I just think that's an
yeah,
unavoidable part of it. There's nothing you can do. Like with
Especially with so many students at the school. Like there's a lot of stuff that goes
yeah, with
on.
so many,
yeah,
you
yeah,
can't watch every student at all
Yeah.
times.
There's
yeah.
probably
That's true.
always gonna be a way where a student just gets away from.
Yeah, and it's even worse in other districts actually, because like I think my teacher was telling me a story about how like in other districts there were like actual gang fights going on, that's crazy to me. I can't even imagine that actually happening in my school.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
and it's never escalated to that point where we are, but that's crazy to me. Like obviously I think that yeah, like you said, I think the majority of the problem lies with students.
I mean, yeah, and at least with a gun like you could do a backpack search or a metal detector or
Yeah,
something, but you can't like handcuff every student.
yeah.
Like
Unless you're like, you can predict the future or something, you can't like tell when and where
yeah.
something's about to happen. Yeah, yeah, that. Yeah. Hey guys, post editing Street in here. So we've listened to our recording of episode 7, and we decided that we weren't really satisfied with the way it like panned out. We didn't really come to a definite conclusion. So what we've done is we've re-recorded that part of the episode, the conclusion, and we hope you enjoy.
All right, so just recapping what we talked about in this episode, we were talking about things like increasing security at
Mm-hmm.
schools in order to, better protect students. That would be like increased like police
Mm-hmm.
presence
Yeah, we talked about
and
metal detectors. Yeah.
yeah, metal detectors, bag searches, things like that in order
Mm-hmm.
to like treat, but what we described as the symptoms to the actual disease, which is a much larger problem,
Right.
something on a more national level, uh, about like the gun
Gun possession
safety and
laws. Yeah.
the gun registration laws and things like that, which have to be controlled at a more federal level.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Um,
I mean,
so
the thing with federal level though is like, we talked about how it would take a lot of radical action on part of the federal government for them to establish like a nationwide law saying that
yeah,
here are the specific, gun restriction laws. So
yeah,
I think it's more feasible if we do it from a state route where like each, let's say, governor or whatever looks at their individual state and says, hey, this is the certain age group that is committing the most gun violence, so we'll try to restrict guns to them, from them, so that we can better protect the public and schools in general. So
Right. Yeah. It's like the without a doubt there has to be a change.
Hmm.
In you can increase security at schools, obviously with adequate funding and things like that. It is possible, but in order to combat the larger issue here, there definitely has to be change at a much higher level.
Hmm.
Um,
And then,
Speaking about government and all that, we also talked about uh, the role the Second Amendment plays on gun violence in schools and everything like that.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So how the Second Amendment would play into that, and how um, like how difficult that becomes
we talked about how like
to
the
try
influence
and
of
change something like that because it becomes an infringement
yeah,
on our rights as citizens.
yeah, because like once someone interpreted it in a way that like everyone has the right to bear arms, obviously, I mean, obviously it talks about that, but once it's been interpreted that way and it's been passed down that way, for generations, it's kind of ingrained in the country's culture.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's something that's very, I wouldn't say scandalous, but it's something that's very iffy to talk about, because you don't want to
Mm-hmm.
like, because yeah, I mean, if you talk about gun restriction laws, some people might get like offended saying that, hey, you're restricting my right to own a gun or whatever. But
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
And
And
then
then
another thing we talked about at the more local level was um, like training of staff, how that would
Mhm.
also play a role, and like the drills that are in place,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and whether or not those are actually like as effective as they should be.
Hmm.
Um, things like that, like things that can be done much better or a much more effective way to like better provide
Lockdown
security
procedures, I
for.
think we talked about, right? Lockdown drills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, like long story short, like instead of going over the entire episode all over again, let's try and sum it up a little bit.
Okay.
Basically, long story short is what needs to be done is, unless there is a radical change at like federal or state level government, guns will still be guns, firearms, weapons, stuff like that will still be prevalent um, in our environment.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
so what we can do to better protect ourselves in the meantime would be to try and enact change at a more local level, like at our schools, whether that's increasing security or our better preparedness for a situation like this, which is unfortunately a very real situation that we have to prepare for, but something that should be done nonetheless.
right.
yeah,
And there are three things I have to say, like just to talk about like what we can actually do to change the situation of school security and security for the public in general. The first is like obviously yes, guns will obviously always be a part of American culture, right?
yeah,
Just because
yeah,
Second Amendment and how America was developed. Um, so the issue of restricting those guns to a safe group that can responsibly handle them is always something that's a topic of contention. And it resides with the states, governments, and local governments to decide what they individually need to keep the public safe, right? But it's possible. It's definitely possible. Um, and then the second thing is that um, essentially we can obviously treat the symptoms of the disease by making schools more safe. With the stuff we talked about, like metal detectors, an increase in police presence, like for example, drug dogs and stuff, so that in general students are safer. And the last thing was essentially just we talked about how the federal government, right? It's uh, it's something that can be heavily manipulated by a vast majority of people in terms of the opinions that go up to their and like Supreme Court cases and stuff, right? So I think the federal government, like action on the federal government level, is something that is a lot harder to achieve. And without a vast like majority consensus, it's probably not likely. But something that is workable on is the state level and local level.
All right, there's no easy solution to this, but that's not an excuse to sit idle and
Exactly.
do nothing.
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
That taking that first step, no matter how small it may be,
Hmm.
I honestly
is
think that taking that first step is the hardest part.
Yeah,
So I
and
think everything after that will be coming like a
and,
little bit more easier.
and here's the caveat with that is that like it might be hard to do, but the thing is it's like a simple step. So once you take it, you know where to go, like the direction wise.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like it could be as simple as just raising the age limit for owning a, like, you know, the very beginning age for owning a gun by a year or two.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
all right.
Anything else?
No, I think we've covered everything for the majority of what we talked about.
Yeah, I agree.
Alright guys, so these are our opinions on school security. Let us know what you think in the comment section down below if you're listening on YouTube. And if you're listening on other platforms, send us an email at afterthebellrings.podcast@gmail.com for recommendations and questions. We hope you have enjoyed this episode of After the Bell Rings, and we'll see you next time.
All righty. Peace.
Peace.